let your life speak. That's what vocation is letting the entirety of your life say who you already and always have been. I think that's beautiful in the best sense, but also in the worst sense is you better know what's forming you. If there's work to be done, you're doing that work. But in the best places and the best guides and the best leaders or pastors or spiritual directors are able to see that and like just kind of point that out or call that person in.
Most Christians, I think, formation is something that I choose to do. And if I don't choose to do it, then I'm not being formed. That's not true at all.
Right.
Actually, you are being formed and shaped all the time, whether or not you've surrendered and released control, whether you've made a plan or you haven't. Welcome to the Follow-Up Podcast, a podcast that believes at its core the single most important oriented belief that if Jesus was right about God and life and the human soul, then it would make sense that we rearrange our lives around what he said is true. So that's what we're exploring. All that Jesus said was true and how to rearrange our lives around it. So here we are. We're actually doing this.
How many months, years in the making?
Well, I think back to the early days when I was 12, when I was dreaming of doing a podcast with Steve Carter. No, I mean, like, we started talking about this, I don't know, it's been a couple years, right?
Yeah.
Couple years?
Couple years.
I mean,
couple years.
And here we are.
We've had this, like, circuitous, is that how you say that word?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's a smart word. Circuitous.
If you just add a few more syllables to a normal word and then just pretend like it's the word, people will be like, yeah, it's biblical. Of course. So it's true. It's the Greek.
Yeah. So what? Circuitous.
Our producer Luke just confirmed there is a word, charcuterie.
Charcuterie.
Welcome to the charcuterie, Greek for board of cheese and meat. So if anybody wonders where this podcast is going to be, and if they should ever tune back in, now they know. Anyway, you were saying.
So if you go back to Illinois, we get kind of like this opportunity to help a church out.
That's right.
And then we find ourselves in Colorado on a drive, and we like share just kind of like in a 45-minute to an hour-long drive. I don't know if I've had as instant of a connection.
Yeah, me too.
Around.
Yeah, me too.
It's just like life, but then formation, and then
we
just
didn't
pain.
know each other.
Right.
You know, we had. It was if you go back to fill in even more blanks.
Yeah.
I knew of you because we were both at two large churches, and so we sort of ran parallel, never intersected, even at the church we were helping.
Right.
You were preaching off weekends, and then I would come in and preach.
Yep.
And so it was our buddy Brad Lomenick who said, hey, Parks, will you pick up this guy, Steve Carter, at the airport? And that's when I picked you up.
And so I just remember that drive just kind of going, man, like, I knew, again, you were there the off weekends and I wasn't there, so I knew the name, didn't know the person, but just had that moment of kind of those next few days just going like, this is someone that isn't just like a ministry friend, and I've got a bunch of those, and they're awesome, and I'm grateful for their voice in my life, but I was like, this is someone who is chasing down some of the same desires I have.
Totally.
Whether formation, whether our love for sports, whether just trying to get healed in the right ways, and just there was just a bunch of similarities that and then I'll never forget. It's one of like the holiest moments is we were with all of these pastors, and we end up about 6 of us in a late night kind of cabin sharing like our experience of hurt and experience like and pain and struggle in the local church, and just how we were able to get through that, and just the stories and the vulnerability and our love for Christ and our love for formation, our love for the local church, just all of that I felt like just like cemented just this journey, and we've just been chopping regularly ever since.
let's let everybody know where you are in the world. I mean, they've sort of picked up on it.
So I live in the northwest suburbs of Chicago, so about 25 minutes northwest of Chicago. And then the church that I one of the pastors at is a historic church in Chicagoland. It's called Christ Church of Oak Brook. And I'm the third pastor in 60 years. First pastor was there 32 years, Dr. Art DeKreider, and then I followed the Reverend Dr. Dan Meyer. And both of them, huge heart for formation. DeKreider actually had this class called the Basics of Christianity. And it was like early spiritual formation in like 1965, 72.
Oh, wow.
And then Dan Meyer really had just this heart. I mean, he was the chair of the Fuller Seminary. And it's just like his longing and desire for formation, discipleship vision was the language of the church. And so I had always heard and respected Christ Church. I actually referred to it as the Midwest Menlo because it just had that same
Menlo Park,
where John Ortberg was.
Ortberg.
Yeah, who was a mentor to both of us. Like who like it just had that kind of like presence and safety and trust in the community. And so I've been there about 16 months and having the time of my life. Incredible team and congregation. So
you here's what's interesting about you. You've kind of an eclectic sports loyalties, don't you?
Yeah. First and foremost, University of Michigan.
I mean, come on. Here's the thing. Let's talk about that for a second. Yeah. First off, that is a grown man's basketball team.
Grown man's.
But that is what $21 million will get you. Huh?
Well, that's the new world. It's the Wild Wild West.
It is the Wild Wild West.
Yep.
But that team is legit. So you love Michigan.
Yep.
But you don't just but you love the Cubs.
I love the Cubs. Love the Cubs.
And we're gonna lock this into a time frame, which I'm fine with.
Yeah.
Opening day.
It is opening day.
How do you feel about that?
I feel great.
Are you excited? You have butterflies?
It's kind of crazy. I want to sit down with PCA and ask them about 6 years, $115 million. Kyle Tucker got 4 for $225 or $240. So I'm like, why so little? I don't understand it.
That's another thing. You and I could have a deep conversation on what's wrong with baseball.
Yep.
And why the game of football is probably a better model.
Yep.
Because think about it. You're a Bears fan.
Yep.
There's your other loyalty. Deeply love the Bears.
Deeply love the Bears.
And they were complete garbage 3 years ago, and look what you can do in just a few short years.
Yeah, we could arguably say that we were complete garbage for 3 quarters this year, and then just the last 4 minutes just turned it on. It was amazing. So many like cardiac kids moments.
So many cardiac kids moments. I think some similarities now. I'm pointing out a few differences between us.
Yep.
And I make it known.
Yeah.
I'd like to think I don't really come after the Bears so much, do I?
No.
Cubs, I don't really come after your loyalties. Question them a little bit?
Subtly? Subtly. I would say not so much the Bears because, up until this past year too, you and I were
Broncos too.
Yeah, we're terrible.
We were on the island of irrelevancy.
Exactly. And then very brave. Like you started out serving at a church in Chicago with a St. Louis Cardinals jersey.
Yeah, I did that.
It's a
bold move.
It's a bold move. It's a very bold move.
Stake in the ground.
It's just like this guy's gonna get booed out.
But I grew up in Granite City, Illinois. Illinois. But it was closer to it was closer to St. Louis than most of the suburbs were. Mm-hmm. Like we were right across the river, still Milltown. It'd be like Gary, Indiana.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
with WGN for us,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
you had to make a choice.
You did it. And in our day, you did make a choice because I grew up in St. Louis, so I went to the World Series in 1982, 85, 87.
Gosh.
Right? Weighty Herzog, Vince Coleman, Willie McGee, Jack Clark, Ozzie Smith, the Wizard of Oz, the greatest shortstop to ever play the game defensively. Unbelievable. Yeah. That's what I grew up in. Grew up with that, but we didn't have streaming services. There were 2 other teams that were constantly in front of you. WGN Chicago Cubs.
TNT.
Yep.
Or
And the Atlanta
TBS?
TBS, the
yes.
Atlanta Braves.
Yeah.
And so I saw Chicago all the time.
Yep.
Now in the 80s, those were the Sandberg days, not particularly.
Yep.
You had some moments. Cardinals sort of dominated. But yeah, I mean,
You know what's weird though for me is in 5th grade. Remember those starter puffy jackets, like
Totally.
the parkas? Mm-hmm. So I live in Southern California, and all of our friends, we wanted one. But I think it was my friend Andy. He was like, hey, we can't all buy the same jacket. So we have to right now pick our teams. And we had a draft. So 5th grade, like put our numbers in. And I got number 2. And I think my friend Ken got number 1. He chose the Lakers. And I just chose the Bulls. And so if you chose the city, you had to like all their teams. So I went Blackhawks, Bears, Cubs, and then Jordan with the Bulls. And so I, like 5th grade, it was like called to a place of Chicagoland.
Isn't that wild?
It is.
Isn't that wild? Doesn't this speak to something about how we are wired as humans, the way in which so much of our past experience finds its way into our current circumstances, like both good and bad?
Yeah.
Like those, when we speak of like being formed isn't just what's happened in this moment, right? It isn't just what we're doing. Being formed has all kinds of layers to it. Like, where did I come from? How did I grow up? Like, reconciling some of these pieces through the process.
Think about it, too, like in the sense of, was it Michelangelo, who was interviewed a long, long time ago, and he had like this massive, like slab of marble, and they were asking him about the statues, like the Pieta or the David, like that he created, and he just said, "Oh, the statue's right here. I just have to cut away the dead pieces." And sometimes I think about formation is this profound revealing, like because part of it is like almost cutting away to go, what is your imago Dei? Like I have a friend, when she was a kid, was writing letters to the president. She graduates from Westmont and she has an internship at the White House because her parents recognized that unique imago Dei and knew how to sift and sort and encourage and could understand that revealing connected to purpose and calling and that formation that wanted to already happen. That formation that was actually coming to the surface. And I think so much of that is like when you begin to recognize, oh yeah, like it's like Parker Palmer, the great Quaker voice, just let your life speak. That's what vocation is letting the entirety of your life say who you already and always have been. And I think that's beautiful in the best sense, but also in the worst sense is you better know what's forming you. And you better know what's like actually being revealed in you if there's work to be done, you're doing that work. But in the best places and the best guides and the best leaders or pastors or spiritual directors are able to see that and like just kind of point that out or call that out or call that person in. And that's been some of the moments I've had with you that have been so powerful.
Ortberg said it this way. He said, returning back to the person, the one that God thought up when he thought you up.
Yes.
What is the profound misconception about being shaped, do you think, that most people carry?
I think we've talked about this before, but I think it's so much of life and formation that scares people is a surrendering of control. So like, you got up this morning, you ran 1.5 miles, you said,
I sure did. I ran 1.5 miles today. Huh? Yeah, I'm proud.
Hey, but it's great. It's great. And you've got a good coach, and the coach is going to help you, prepare for a marathon and to run. Well, that's someone who's like shaping you towards something.
Yeah.
I think but you've got to actually want that and surrender control to that coach's voice.
Totally.
I think oftentimes when you don't know how to do this, then all of a sudden you're like, how do I know that there's a promised benefit to my life? And how do I know this is the person I should surrender control or trust to, that they're going to actually help me be shaped for like my well-being and the well-being of those around me?
Dude, that's so big. But here's I'll take that one step further, because we think about it as control and surrender, as if it's a conscious choice. And I'm not saying that it's not, but here's the reality. Most Christians, I think, oh, formation is something that I choose to do, and if I don't choose to do it, then I'm not being formed. That's not true at all. Right. Actually, you are being formed and shaped all the time, whether or not you've surrendered and released control, whether you've made a plan or you haven't. So today, yes, I am proud of this. So I'm on this diet. I'm trying to lower my cholesterol, like naturally, right? And so that means like I have to do certain things, of which most of them don't come naturally. I look like I'm a runner until you watch me run, and then you're like, wow, that guy is struggling. So I'm not particularly great at running, but I'm like, okay, there's things that I have to do, right? If I'm going to be shaped into someone with low cholesterol, I'm going to have to do these things. Now, in our context, oftentimes we think, well, if I'm not doing those things, I'm just not being shaped. Not true at all. When I'm not doing those things, the other forces like eating like I'm 20 years old, and having hamburgers and French fries for lunch, and then pizza for dinner, and doing that over and over is shaping me into a person who has high cholesterol. I think the thing that most of us, that I want so desperately people in our church, in our sphere to understand is, oh man, whether you choose or not, you're being shaped into something, right? Like you're being formed, and what's forming you is the thing that you relinquish control to. This phone. How much control do we relinquish to this orb, this glowing orb? You know what I mean?
I'll go back to Tracy Bianchi. She wrote this dissertation all on liturgy, and I got a hold of it and like read through it, and I was blown away by it. But something she said that was fascinating was, after 9/11, we as Americans needed something to make us feel okay. And you had a couple of moments that were, and again, not being political here, but just a couple moments that like somehow rallied the country together.
Absolutely.
One of them was George W. Bush, President Bush.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
Walking out
with the megaphone,
but he walks out to the mound and pitches a strike before the World Series. The next couple days later, the NFL. She writes how the NFL is its own liturgy, and in the subconscious, we look for something that just feels familiar. That allows all of the cortisol just to kind of drop, and again, like in your subconscious, you are going to. It's like water. You're going to find the least path of resistance and flow that way. And I think that's the part of it is you just eat pizza. You get hamburgers.
Yeah.
You just do what you want to do.
What I want to do.
It's that, in Dallas Willard language, the impulsive will. Like we just have that impulsive will. But I think for us, the beauty of formation is recognizing, the decisions I'm making in my subconscious, bringing those to the conscious and asking myself, to what you just asked, is that helping me become the person I want to be, the person I was made to be,
the person that God thought up? Exactly. But this is interesting. So tie it all together, because when you think about this whole conversation of intentional formation, like, hey, we're being chiseled and formed into something all the time.
Yeah.
Now, you have to believe that, but I think there's a old concept that the system in which you're running is perfectly equipped to get you the results that you're currently getting, right?
That's right.
So, like, I think about that often, is that everybody's running a play. Even if you say, I'm not running a play, you are running and not running a play, right? That's what you're doing. You're rehearsing something.
Yep.
You're either rehearsing having high cholesterol, you're either rehearsing a broken marriage, you're rehearsing a different story.
Yep.
And that's why I think that quote and that concept's so important, because sometimes maybe some of these practices in and of themselves, you're like, to what end?
Right.
Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
It's rehearsal.
Yeah.
For something bigger.
Yeah.
Right?
That's an interesting part. It'd be like because we both like have, we're storyboards and film and background and that kind of piece, but like, it'd be almost like if I took a movie, my son and I just went and saw Project Hail Mary. And let's say like the new Ryan Gosling movie. And let's just say I took one kind of scene from that and just handed it to you. And you don't know the whole story. You don't know where the story's going. You just have that one scene. And I think that's sometimes the way we approach formation is I just have this one random practice. Sabbath.
Dude, that's so good. Isn't that true?
I don't necessarily have the entire arc of what is the macro, micro narrative of Scripture going. What's my place in this story? What are the acts that make up the story? How does this actual practice helping me become who I'm supposed to be? I just feel like I've been handed a set of lines, but I have no idea what this whole play,
what is it about?
Where's the story going? And I think for a lot of people, then I'm like, that's for the academics, or that's just for the pastors, or it doesn't help my life in Castle Rock or the western suburbs of Chicago.
Totally.
And I think for us, if we can actually help, people touch the bottom of the pool and just say, hey, this is where the entire story goes. This is your unique place in it. And this is why it matters. I think more people will go, oh, that feels accessible. And that's what I think mentors have done for us, helped make that story, the shaping, the forming, the intention more accessible, that I think you and I, whether through sports, whether through life, whether through faith, whether through leadership, have just constantly tried to bring that in. I'm curious for you, Eric, like, what do you think is some of the biggest resistant barriers to formation in your current context in Colorado? I think a lot of times we can exegete a verse of Scripture, and most pastors just jump to like, oh, what does this commentators think? Without recognizing like, no, our job is to exegete the place that we've been called to.
I'll make a big, broad brushstroke. And again, evangelical context, that's what I've come up in, right? Been a part of large emerging churches. But even in that context, what I think is the biggest challenge to formation is that we've broken down all of Jesus' sayings, all of the New Testament, all of our teachings into just something I need to learn. That's it. So if you think about what I was taught growing up, what is spiritual growth? Oh, I have a quiet time in the morning. And what does a quiet time consist of? A bunch of learning practices. Now, I'm not suggesting that you can't learn. Dallas makes it pretty clear, like, the way you and I think is the most determinative thing about us, right? Like, how the thoughts that run through our head, man, they do impact our actions. So I'm not discounting thinking. What I would say makes this a challenge for people is there's a misunderstanding that this is not about learning lines so that you know the lines. It's learning the lines so that you can go and rehearse them with your body, like do something. And so what I love about the conversation is that, there's a component of us learning. We got to have new thoughts, right? We got to think new thoughts and be introduced to new ideas. But the idea that you talked about rehearsal, that means like there's something I'm going to do with my body. Like, I'm going to go live this out because here's the thing. You're going to go to work after this podcast. You're going to have dinner tonight with your family. You're going to have, your son is going to wake up late for school this morning. And if the words that you've learned have no impact on those moments, then the real question is, then what is all of this for? And so for me, it is like, that's why I love when you said, touching the bottom of the pool, words like rehearsal. This podcast is certainly about rethinking what it looks like to be a slab of marble shaped into what God had in mind. But I am convinced that slab of marble being shaped is to then go out and live in this world as a different kind of presence. Like, we just show up differently, and wholeness and reconciliation follows us into all these spaces, right?
I think what you just described, I think, is the difference between Western way of thinking and Eastern way of thinking when it comes to formation. Because we've been in a rehearsal ever since we started going to school, which was to know facts.
Know facts.
Know the answers,
Totally.
right? So
pass a test.
Exactly. So
That's great.
So how does that not play into our faith? And I can tell you this, like February 17th, 1963, there was a kid that was born in Brooklyn, New York. That kid at the age of 2 moved down to Wilmington, North Carolina with his family. He loved washing his cars with his grandfather. He loved the game of baseball. He always tried keeping up with his older brothers and siblings. And I could tell you about how he got cut from varsity as a sophomore at Laney High. I could tell you how he grew to 6'4" as a senior in high school, how he went to the University of North Carolina, hit the game-winning shot as his freshman against Georgetown. I can tell you I was drafted number 3 by the Chicago Bulls behind Sam Bowie and Hakeem Olajuwon. I could tell you about how he got his first shoe contract. I could tell you how many stats this man had. I could tell you how he met his wife at a Bennigan's restaurant, if you remember those, how they dated, broke up. I could tell you about the drama on the Dream Team. I could tell you what really happened in the flu game. I could tell you about how there was this beautiful court built on the set of Space Jam where he got his runs. I could tell you what happened in the Birmingham Barons. I could tell you who his coach was, Terry Francona, in minor league baseball. I could tell you all of these facts about Michael Jeffrey Jordan, which you would then go, have you ever met him? And I would say no. And you know what we call those people? Stalkers. And I think that's the truth of how Western evangelical formation has been. Is we just have a whole bunch of people who are stalking Christ and the way of Jesus because we know facts. He fed 4,000. He fed 5,000. He walked and was baptized in the Jordan. He He overturned tables. But to what you're saying, the rehearsing, how it's showing up in my body, how it's leading to a life of reconciliation, a life of love, a life of forgiveness. My facts don't have the chutzpah or the wherewithal to transfer that. And I think that's where people feel stuck. They're like, I know the right stuff. I just don't know how to get it into my being.
It's the difference between... So you and I grew up playing sports.
Yeah.
I played baseball, basketball, football. And I think about the difference between playing football, playing basketball, and my math class. The math class, I was learning a bunch of facts in order for me to regurgitate those onto a test. And I'm not suggesting that math isn't important. There was just a very specific way in which I was to learn these facts, spit these up on a test. That's what you were talking about. I had a bunch of stuff I had to learn in football. I had to learn on paper. I played, I was a slot receiver and I was a free safety. There were plays. They were put on paper.
Yep.
They said there are certain things, when you see certain things, this is what you're going to do. Tons and tons of facts, tons.
Yep.
But all of those facts did me no good.
Yeah.
If I didn't do anything with them, right? Like if I stood out there and I knew what was supposed to happen, but my body then didn't go and cover that, tailback. Yeah. The coach would say, what are you doing? And the answer can't be, well, I know what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
I know what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
But yeah, and I think if we can, I mean, honestly, as a pastor, I think about this all the time. I am not at all interested in discounting the facts.
Yep.
In fact, one of the phrases we use around here is, if Jesus was right about God, life, and the soul, then it would make sense that we rearrange our lives around him.
Yep.
But there's two pieces. You kind of have to know what Jesus said about God, life, and the soul. Like those facts are important.
Yep.
Like what he said in the Beatitudes, what Matthew 5, 6, and 7 lead to. When he talks about loving our enemy, what does that mean? Like you have to understand it. But there then has to be a transition into, it's so that I can go out and play this game, live this life, do this stuff. And I think that's my hope is that we can, Barna did a study. This is like back in 2019 when they asked a bunch of non-Christians what they thought about us. And the words they used weren't kind.
Yeah.
I mean, what they think about us and how we live out in this real world did not reflect the words of Jesus. And so the goal is like, how do I take these things that I've learned and run these plays in the real world?
Totally. That's so good. And taking it even out of the sports, like for anyone who's like, okay, you're also a good cook.
I am a good cook.
There are people, and I'm one of them. I need the instructions.
You need a HelloFresh.
I will literally follow the instructions, but if like I don't know how to improvise, and that's what you're talking about with like the sports. Like my wife doesn't need the instructions. She sees, just give me the ingredients. I know how to make this, and she knows how to take the ingredients and also improvise for what that meal or what that moment demands. That's what faith is, what the kind of faith that is required for today. And I think that this is the podcast that's going to help people really take what they've learned and help them follow up in ways that are going to stretch them, but give them what they need to improvise, to be attuned to God in the present and the Spirit in the present, but actually do what that moment requires and demands, so that they're rehearsing in a way that feels true to who they've always been and who they were intended to be. I love that Ortberg quote, to be more of who God thought. Say that again, because I
think he said it, to become the person that God thought of when he thought you up.
Yes.
Become that person.
I love that.
A journey back to that person.
Yes.
Right? And that does give us hope, right? And so I think that's the call, is how do we, you and me as pastors, over the next few, however many, we'll bring some friends in and we'll have conversations, but it is about touching the bottom of the pool. That's a great phrase. Yeah. Two phrases you introduced that maybe we'll adopt is like touching the bottom of the pool and rehearsing. Like, what are you rehearsing? Yeah. So, sweet. Carter, love you, dude.
Love you too, bro. This is going to be fun.
So, that's going to do it for today. If something landed for you in this conversation, don't just let it sit. Take it with you. Carry it into your week. Talk about it with somebody. Let it do something in you. And if you want to go deeper, click on the link in the show notes. We'll be back soon with more. So until then, keep following up.